there. This is a great library that we have. Hope you come back and check it out. Everyone else, thank you for being here again. So we'll get started today with the approval of the agenda. Have you all reviewed the agenda? All right, I'll entertain a motion for that. Motion to approve from Tom. Is there a second? Second from Tadana. No other discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Have you all reviewed the minutes that were sent out? Yes. All right, I will entertain a motion for that.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve from James.
Second.
Second from Tyler. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Minutes have been approved. We'll move on to the public agenda. We have one scheduled item from Ms. LaShonda Gomes.
I'm going to come this way because I feel like I'm not tall enough to see all of y'all if I stand behind the podium. My name is LaShonda Gomes, and I work with Wichita State University in the Public Policy and Management Center. I had an opportunity to come before the board several months ago to talk about what we're doing with Linda Day, and thought we would come back to give you an update on the progress we've made and some of the things that are coming up in the very near future. Last year we had our first year of activity, and then beginning in November of 2018, we began the second round of activity. That included a Activate Shopper Neighborhood Challenge. Most of the work we did in year one was around Fairmount neighborhood, and this was an opportunity for us to connect with all of the neighborhood associations that kind of hub the university. So we then started to include and invite all 8 neighborhood associations that hub the university in the activities that we were doing. The Activate Challenge was about getting people out and exercising during the winter months and making sure that they were drinking water. So we tried to encourage them by having this challenge. They would submit their tracker forms to us on a monthly basis. We'll put them in a raffle and identify a winner for each of the months from November through February. We then hosted what we call Win the Day Speed Dating. When we did our 8-week fitness series on last year, we identified barriers that the individuals faced and talked about in relationship to why they were not exercising or why they felt like they could not live a healthy lifestyle. And so we created an event that they would be able to talk with professionals in those spaces around the barriers that were identified through the process. In February, we hosted a Motivating Youth Forum where we had a panel of individuals over at the Health Corps to talk about how do we continue the momentum of making sure that we continue to be healthy individuals to create healthy families and healthy communities. On last week, we partnered with the City of Wichita and the Health and Wellness Coalition for the We All Eat event. And in that event, what we did is we partnered with Transit to have bus services from each of the neighborhood resources that would take the individuals from the Neighborhood Resource Center over to Central County Extension Office. The goal in that was, one, to teach them the route from their community over to a healthy food option, as well as give them an opportunity to experience what happens at Central County Extension Office, to be a part of that day that occurred on March 27th or 8th, I believe it was. So that kind of there were individuals still looking for activities, so we decided to extend it beyond the 5K run this year. So after they finished the 5K, that they would still get 4 weeks of activities to continue to foster this relationship of creating a healthy community. And then our last activity before we wrap up our grant is the 5K walk run, which is on July 27th. The council member smiles because there's a challenge on the table between him and I about who's getting to the finish line first. And so we are starting to prepare for our kickoff event for the 12-week health and fitness series. We've partnered with the Boys and Girls Club to have a kickoff event on June 1st so that we can utilize the resources that are within our community and continually finding opportunities to promote those facilities. part of this grant that we received was around developing these pedestrian wayfinding signages. And so before I came onto WSU, I believe there was a conversation in the community gathering around how do we start creating pedestrian signs to connect people to the resources that are within the District 1 community. The purpose of that project was to create a visible path to connect residents to resources. So we're looking at the existing resources that are within the community that are along 13th Street, 17th Street, and 21st Street to make sure that if we have a resource there that helps us promote a healthy community, that we start connecting people. And how do we do that in a pedestrian-friendly way that doesn't require transportation such as a vehicle? So this is our principles behind this, is making sure that they're visible, they're distinct, that they're clear and concise. And so this is what the signs will look like. It'll have Shocker Neighborhood Connections, and then we will be pointing to these facilities. So we will have signs that point the residents to the Neighborhood Resource Center. The Boys and Girls Club will come up as youth programs. We will also have spaces on campus that the community has access to, such as Go Create. The Heskett Center will point them to Lynette Woodard, the library, One Stop Student Services, and then there are other ones that you'll see, Open Door and Health Corps. One of the things that we had to go back and do in this process is remove names off of the signage. Because of the pedestrian signage, I don't know if it's Bike Walk Wichita, but the city has requirements on what language can be placed on signs. So we do not have the ability to specifically say open door, we have to say food program. Or we can't say health corps, we have to say health clinic, so that if things change, or it does not seem as though the city is promoting a particular entity. And the reason I say city is that after we have the signs installed, the signs will then be transferred over to the city of Wichita for continual maintenance. This is kind of a map that kind of shows you some of the pinpoints, and it's the list that I just shared with you on where we will have the signage. We did do our due diligence around making sure that we were not overpopulating the space with signage, and so we met with city staff to ensure that they were comfortable with the number of signs. Directionally, it looked good, and that we were not missing any of the directional paths we needed to create this space for the pedestrians around Shocker Neighborhood. And so that is my update. We will be taking this to the council for approval to transfer the signage over to the city of Wichita once the installation has been done. But we wanted to make sure that we had a touch point with the district advisory board prior to going to the council for their final approval. So with that, I will stand for any questions that you might have. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to provide this update.
Any questions from the dad?
Hi, so your sign is gonna be promoting Save a Lot grocery store, one of your signs,
Yes,
as a healthy food place,
as a food option.
as a food option?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're talking about health and you said you're directing people out to, extensions about healthy food, so have you thought about any type of grants to maybe bring a full service grocery store or something like that to the community?
That was not a part of the funding we received from the Kansas Health Foundation. So this work was built off of the funding we had available.
Right, I know, but have any of your talks surrounded, since you're talking about healthy eating, are there any way that we can promote some other options for healthy eating?
I do believe there are other conversations that are happening in regards to how do we make sure that there are closer, healthier options within the community. We have not specifically identified what that looks like, but we have been in discussions with other groups that are working on that issue in particular.
So would you be a resource, if, I'm part of a new group that just formed, would you be a resource that we can maybe talk to you about?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the dad?
So for the residents that are pointing them in the direction of the Heskett Center, is there a partnership with Wichita State that allows individuals who are not an official, I guess, student or enrolled student at the university to utilize the facility without paying a fee?
We're working through the dynamics of what that looks like. It's it's a little trickier because now the YMCA is coming onto campus, so we're trying to make sure we have a full balance. But looking at both of those facilities to understand what is the best agreement to have so that we can get full utilization of both facilities and it doesn't become a competing value. So we're looking at that and we're still trying to figure it out.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I'm not sure if it fits into the sections you had for resources in the area, but what stuck out in my mind was Founders Grove. Is that going to be one that is being waived?
That is not a part of what the original signage was. So Founders Grove came a year after this project occurred. And so if we go back in to put Founders Grove in there, it could delay the project well longer than what we intended. It's not to say that signs cannot be revised, but from a grant perspective, we have to meet the deadlines that we are being held against in order to make sure that we are in line with the funding that we secured.
So that when it gets turned over to the city for maintenance, then they would just apply it to try to update.
So if anything happened to the signage, so if a sign went down, if somebody graffitied a sign or anything like vandalized a sign, the city would be responsible for replacing that sign. And at that time, if there was conversations with the city about adding other descriptors to the sign, the thing we have to keep in mind is that when you change one sign, you have to go look through the entire stock to make sure that directionally that you connect them to all of the signs that were being pointed to Founders Grove.
Well, they haven't made the signs yet, right?
The design of the signs have been made, so what that means is that because that happened a year ago, I would have to get another contract with the consultant that did the work for the design of the signs to come back in and do more work.
Technically, it's not a health. That's why I said I wasn't sure if it fit within that. But, I mean, library's not health either, so there's gotta be more than just
Education, or education.
it's economic reasons. It actually.
Any other questions from the back?
I have one more, I'm so sorry. Can you touch on where the signs would be located? Because if the purpose of these signs are for the community surrounding Wichita State, can you touch on where the signs would be located strategically so that those residents who don't even come close to Wichita State, will they be able to easily have access to these signs and be able to read?
So they will, it's gonna be in that kind of square mile that I talked about, so it won't get into neighborhoods, pulling people from neighborhoods out to 21st or out to 17th Street. It has to be along the paths that would actually get you there from a walking perspective. We did not go deep into the neighborhoods to figure out how to bring people out of those areas, because then the project expands greater than what the grant funds will allow for.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Ultimately, what would you say are your two main objectives you want to
for the
steal
program.
out of this?
So, two objectives is how do we start to educate and encourage people to live healthy lifestyles, and from an educational perspective, what are the opportunities that exist that we currently have that we're not fully utilizing? The second part of this is how do we become a better neighbor with the community? And so how do we start building relationships and building bridges between the community at large and getting them on campus as well as WSU going off campus and being a part of the neighborhoods?
I do commend what you do.
Thank you.
Any questions from the community? Mr. Barnes, questions?
So, are you gonna have any kind of communication that will go out? You're not going deep into the neighborhood and stuff, so you're around the perimeter and you're, but you do want people to come out, so, but they're gonna have any kind of, mailings or something that would go to those zip codes, or those areas, those homes that they read about this and say, hey, this is what these signs for, follow them, and, maybe like a periodic basis, that part of, maybe part of the grant?
So part of how we've been communicating when we decided to expand beyond Fairmount is that everything that we have done since October to today has been to every president that is, for every neighborhood association that is around WSU. So we're communicating through the neighborhood association. There is, the flyers and all of that information are posted in the organization's One tool that we have not used that came up at Northeast Heights neighborhood meeting the other day is putting information on the buses so that people that are riding the buses may be exposed to it a little bit differently. So we will explore that, but we will not do individual mailings to residents to talk about the wayfinding signs.
Any other questions from community? Thank you, Ms. Hunt.
Thank you so much.
We have another scheduled item from Tobacco Free Wichita Coalition.
Good evening, Councilman Member Johnson and board members. My name is Tara Nolan. I am a tobacco control coordinator here in Sunny County, and I work with Tobacco Free Wichita Coalition. This is Elena DeMora. She is our youth tobacco coordinator. And we are here to talk to you tonight about our Tobacco Free Parks initiative. Just this past month, we went to the park board to present this information with our youth group that Elena oversees. And the park board was actually very supportive of moving forward with this initiative, so we thought it would be a good time to come here and get your feedback and recommendations. I'm going to turn it over to Elena, but I will be here for questions.
Hi, as she said, I'm Elena DeWarden, I'm the youth coordinator of Tobacco Free Wichita. And with this Parks Initiative, we have partnered with Mayor's Youth Council and our group, Resist, to clean up these parks and find out how we can improve them. And these are some jurisdictions in Kansas that have taken initiative for the tobacco free parks, all the way from Atchison County, all the way to Wilhelm. Even my hometown, Little Kansas, is in it, and they're working on this. And the dangers of tobacco in parks is that small children are at risk of choking. There's a lot of people who do not put up the cigarette butts so they can pick them up and they're still hot and get burned. And the biggest one is our little ones tend to pick up the cigarette butts and put them in their mouth and they can get nicotine poisoning. The children are exposed to secondhand smoking, and the biggest thing with cigarette butts is they don't break down. They take about 10 to 15 years starting to break down because the filter is made out of plastic. It's not made out of cotton as people think. And we have had a part where, because of the cigarette butt, it caused a fire and caused a lot of property damage. And then the biggest thing that people don't think about is pets and wildlife. They consume the cigarette butts, or if there's a cigarette butt inside of a puddle, they'll drink that and they can get nicotine poisoning as well. And you'd have a lot of pets die and a lot of wildlife die. And the biggest thing for us is, as a youth coordinator, we want to promote a healthy living. We have a lot of teens that go there to smoke and hang out, and their biggest thing that they like to use is e-cigarettes, chewing tobacco, and a lot of flavored cigars. And why we should prohibit tobacco-free parks and trails. Parks and tobacco-free trails. We want to model healthy behaviors for youth. We want to protect people from secondhand smoking. Secondhand smoking affects 20 feet or less. So we have these little kids playing, we have parents smoking, and they are exposed to that. And we have 80% of Wichitans that do not use tobacco. And smoking is banned in a lot of public places, so we want to promote that, including our
two-part question. Have you gotten any pushback from the initiative? And then two, have you thought about, a designated area, within the parks? Or is it just a no smoking period type of thing?
So I'm gonna start with the second part first, because that is a pretty common question. If you have designated areas, you're still not removing that social norm that smoking or tobacco use is okay for our young people. You're still not removing that secondhand smoke. And wherever people gather with smoking, trash gathers as well. So we're not actually addressing the litter issue either. So it's not something we haven't thought about, but it's something we prefer not to have just because of those reasons. As far as pushback goes, it's actually pretty interesting. The picture of all the community events we were at Open Streets, we were at, OK Kids Day, we were at Open Streets 2 years actually. We've been to Thunder hockey games talking about this. This past week we went to a Thunder hockey game where the kids got to go down on the ice and address the crowd. And there were cheers, people came up to our table afterwards, people signed up to hear about it. Even the O.J. Watson Park event with OK Kids Day, we made that whole northeast corner of the park tobacco free. We had signage, and we only had one person walk up smoking a cigarette, and once they saw the sign, they put it out. A lot of people, even people who are smokers, say, I can't believe this hasn't happened already. Athletic fields are already smoke free. I don't see why not. So we haven't had any negativity, and trust me, people aren't shy at telling us when they don't like something we're doing. So.
One of the things you talked about earlier was like how youth, who goes to parks to smoke. So how does this affect that? Because like I know most teenagers stay up late and go to parks late and probably do that. So how would the signs affect that? You know what I mean? So how does it really affect youth that are already smoking? You know what I mean?
It gives them one less place to go do it. I mean, if it is something that's not allowed, that means somebody's looking. And right now, it's allowed, and so nobody's looking. When you know that there's a possibility you could get caught, if you see, if you're a young person in the park using tobacco, you're not supposed to, and you see a police officer or security guard or whomever come by, it's gonna make it not an appealing place to do that. So it will eventually change that behavior. Also, other people in the park will tell people, hey, that's not allowed here.
And is it both cigarettes and electronic?
We would hope for all of those, yes. The most commonly used products are those other tobacco products that Elaine mentioned, so the cigars, the e-cigarettes, the chewing tobacco. So we would like those to be included in the ordinance along with cigarettes.
So the city is okay using resources to go to parks to see if people are smoking?
No, that's not what I said. What I said was if they are going by and they see someone smoking, just as if they were, if they saw someone that they suspected using alcohol or drugs or whatever, it would be the same type of thing. But we don't expect the police officers to go and patrol the parks to enforce this. I mean, we're not going to get 100% most likely, but we would like to get the majority of it just by normal enforcement measures.
So I know that the tobacco-free initiative has been to many campuses here in Wichita and has been very successful. Brent Newman, Wichita State, but I also know one component that you offer is an educational component. So when we're speaking about eradicating the use of cigarettes and tobacco to, again, providing a safe environment for our young people, what level of education are we also going to provide so that way they just don't see, well, it's tobacco free, but why should I not? So what level of education and what resources are we going to provide to the young people who need the additional help or support to quit smoking or using tobacco?
So one of the great things about our youth group, TFW Resist, is that it is an educational program. In and of itself, we train young people to actually be peer leaders. And so we're hoping to capitalize on those young people on talking to their peers, to classes, and kind of having those conversations that maybe they don't want to talk to adults about, but leading those conversations and explaining and helping to encourage to stay tobacco free. There's also services that are free around the state that actually can treat children as young as 13 years old
community? Mr.
I
Rowland?
have a question, maybe I missed it. Do you have signs up in the parks now about just about free?
It's not tobacco free just yet. The only signs that are up in the parks are the athletic fields, which are smoke free, and the dog parks that are smoke free.
I think if you put your signs up telling people what you expect, you may get a better result. Now, you put tobacco, there, what about marijuana?
That is already illegal, and we of course would like to prohibit that too, but since tobacco is not illegal, we're working on that. But I completely agree.
Any other questions from the community? All right, seeing none, thank you all. Great job on your presentation. All right, off agenda items, do we have any individuals here who didn't request to speak, who has an issue they want the DAB to hear? Seeing none, we'll move on to staff reports. We'll start with fire.
Captain Warren Cannon, stationed at Station One downtown, I'm kind of filling in today for Chief Corny, who's on. The March numbers were out, yes, I'm gonna recap February stuff. In this, district, there's 508 total alarms in February, 19 of those were fire alarms. 56 were service alarms, anything from electrical problems, water problems, things like that. And 433 medical calls, so majority of our calls, those were medical calls. Of those fires, none of them seem to be big fires, but most dollar loss was a house fire that was $30,000. Just pretty much a bedroom, pretty well burned out, so. That's about all I have. If you guys have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Questions from DAB? Questions from the community? All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll have our police report. I thought you were bringing food this time.
Let me go get it. I was like, hey, y'all never have no questions for the fire guy. Hello, I'm Officer Tapper, Patrol North, Community Policing, 43B Patrol Officer. A couple things we wanted to talk about is that we have for the north side of District 1. We did have about a week ago, we had a shooting over by Fountain Mountain Park. We were able to locate all the individual parties that were involved. Do not believe it to be gang related, but the shooter we do have in custody. So we did have one shooter. It had nothing to do with, a little bit I can say, it had nothing to do with any gang ties. It had more to do with the dispute, so an argument. We did have a drive-by yesterday at Brickstone. If you're not familiar with that, it's the apartment complex just north of 21st Street, north of Woodlawn. From the information, Officer Burnett, who's another community policing officer, he was able to develop some information that it was a possible drug deal, not bad, and he's in the process of getting those people out. They're trying to get them out. We don't have the people responsible for the shooting, but it all stems from one direct party of people involved. So they're trying to get them out of it. They weren't responsible for the shooting, but it's connected to it. So Officer Burnett did some great research
My name is Dave Ninestead, and I just, 2 weeks ago became the new supervisor for Patrol South Community Policing. Sergeant Stoll, after being the community policing sergeant for the last 11 years, retired. So we wish him well, and I was put in his spot, so I just wanted to come out today, say hi, put a name to a face. If you guys need anything, this is who I am, and I look forward to working with all of you. So if any issues come up, shoot me an email or phone call, and we'll look into it. So a little bit about me: I've been on the departments for 24 years. I've worked all over the city. I've been in community policing. I've been in the hot team, homeless outreach team. So like I said, I've worked about every shift in every bureau in the city. So I've been around a while, and so hopefully I have something to bring to the table to help you folks out. So, and I know that the Play Healthy ICT folks took off, but I wish them well in their endeavors. I chewed tobacco for 20 years, and I've been 16 years tobacco free. So I think that's great for them. But anyways, I wish them well. But anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself, and if y'all need anything, just give me a holler.
Thank you for being here and all that you do.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question. The stats you gave, the differences were that month to month or year over year?
They were month to month.
How do you spell your last name?
It is NIENST. With E brings you.
All right. I'm Officer James Hook. I'm the Patrol East 32 beat community police officer. So I have a very, very small part of District 1 in the Sunnyside neighborhood that's actually on my beat. So as far as crime on the Patrol East side of District 1, it's actually been looking pretty good. Our violent crime numbers are down year to date from where they were compared to this time last year, which is phenomenal. The one thing we're seeing a slight increase on are our auto thefts, specifically 31 and 38 beat, which is kind of the College Hill area, Central Oliver, Central Hillside, down around East High area, so kind of all through there. This day and age, we're seeing still a lot of people that go out, start their cars and leave them running, and the cars are getting stolen. So please, 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 if that is you, take the extra couple seconds and just start it when you set in the car. Don't leave it running, because it takes literally that long for somebody to drive away with your vehicle. And just keep an eye out. As weather's starting to warm up, we see that increase in foot traffic. A lot of people walking through neighborhoods. And so typically, especially as school starts to let out, we'll see that increase in theft from vehicles and that kind of stuff. So just keep an eye out in your neighborhoods. Again, we always talk, if you see something, say something. If something looks kind of abnormal, doesn't look quite right to you, it's probably a little weird. Don't hesitate to call 911, let us know. Hopefully, we've got an officer that can be kind of through the area. Maybe we stop, get somebody identified. If nothing else, we're at least aware, we know people are looking out, and we're increasing some of that traffic through the neighborhood, which is good. As far as events coming up, I'll leave this flyer with you. Every year, the DEA works with several different agencies to try and promote a prescription kind of trash day. Most everybody, I know I'm the same way, has old prescriptions that are expired, stuff we didn't take all of, stuff we don't need anymore, just sits in our medicine cabinets. With the way kind of the opioid crisis is, I'm sure most everybody's heard about that on the news, with a lot of our pain pills that we tend to take that kind of sit in cabinets. An easy way to get rid of those, coming up on April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They are sponsoring several drop sites where you can take those unused medications, the expired medications, anything, and dump them off there. They'll safely dispose of it all, no questions asked. They'll just take it all, get rid of it. It'll get deactivated, so no one can go try and take it later and use it for anything. go to deatakeback.com, it'll show you a list of all the different drop sites that day where you can take it. So a lot of times pharmacies will have stuff set up where you can take your unused medications back to a pharmacy and have them disposed of it. But this initiative is set up to be a little bit easier, a little more convenient for people to drop off. So I will leave this up for the board to pass around. And I think I've got a website, I've got an email that I can forward to you as well, so you can get an easy to use flyer that can go up on Facebook
Okay.
as well. So I'll get that forwarded to you.
Website one more time?
It's deatakeback.com. Are there any questions?
Questions from the community? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our next agenda item, library report.
Hello, my name is Ann Ethan, and I work for the library. I'm the branch manager of the Evergreen Branch and the Maya Angelou Northeast Branch. And several items coming up. First, I want to bring everyone's attention to our after-hours tech assistance at the Maya Angelou Library. You can receive assistance with job applications, resumes, printing, internet research, and other digital needs. That's 6 to 9 p.m. every Monday and Thursday evening at the Maya Angelou Library. The library is not open for business at that time, but we do have the meeting room open, a laptop lab set up, technology trainers there, and anyone can come in and use the computer and receive instruction on using the computer, get help with applying for jobs, that sort of thing. That's available through grant money that the library received from Google, so we love Google. This time of year, the library is accepting applications from teens to be volunteers for our summer reading program. If you have a teen at home, someone will be starting grades 8 through 12. Have them stop by your nearest library location, and everyone is, all locations are still looking for volunteers. They assist us with signing kids up for the library reading programs, passing out prizes. We have them shelve books. We put them to work in a variety of ways, and kids need volunteer hours, community service hours, and so we've got lots of those available. So stop by the library, you can pick up an application. The library, starting today, a technology survey. It runs April 1st through the 19th. We're interested in finding out whether you use the library's computers, the library's Wi-Fi, use the library's website, catalog, search for items, place holds, so on and so forth. If you're interested, check the library website for the link to the survey. And last, I wanted to mention our gardening program series. The classes that are going on at Rockwell are full, but there are classes available at the Evergreen Branch. I know that's not in District 1, but the Evergreen Branch is at 25th and North Kansas. It's not that far away from District 1. In the next 3 Thursdays this month, April 4 is tomato gardening, April 11 is vegetable gardening, and April 18th is perennials. So there are openings in the Evergreen sessions, and you can contact the library to sign up. And that's all I've got.
Awesome. Any questions from that?
Was the Wi-Fi that you check out, was that to the library?
That was through the neighborhood resource centers, was it Atwater?
Yeah.
Atwater and Coleman. We just have Wi-Fi in the building.
Any questions from the community?
Yes.
So your program at Angelo Library here after hours for computer use and job search and all that,
Yes.
what kind of response have you been getting from them?
Well, we're hoping to get more response. Attendance has not been more than, I believe, 6 people on any evening. We have 12 computers. We have staff, at least 2 staff members there available to help you out. I'm afraid if people don't start coming,
right along. We have, new business. Start off with our first zoning, or our only zoning business. Mr. Euro.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, Dan members, I'm Dave Yearout, planning staff. We're here tonight on, case number zone 2018, 00053, which is a request to rezone property at 620 South Washington, not the whole property, but just a strip of it. The bulk of the property is already zoned GC General Commercial, and this application is to essentially take all of the property owned by the applicant to GC Commercial. A little bit of the background, you've got the staff report. The original plat of this area was done in 1883. I'm not sure anybody here was here at that time. You weren't there, were you, Mr. Brown? You got me on that one. But this application actually begun back in December, and it got delayed because the owner of the property, which is Tap of Kansas, which is a plumbing supply house for the city, and I think the only one here in town, was negotiating with the city to acquire some lots that were unused but had been taken back when the city and KDOT made the interchange off of Kellogg onto Washington. And subsequently was determined to be surplus property. That took about a year, 10, to get everybody to sign off on where that excess land could be released and put back in private ownership. The application subsequently includes zoning that property and making all part of what's going on. You'll note in the staff report there was a vacation application attached to this request because of the previous plats. There had been requests to vacate some items on the old plats, as well as additional, take a strip of land off of Ida and we put it to private ownership, and that has been recommended for approval through the planning commission, as well as rezoning. Now, what is also coming with this is modification and actually a new protective overlay that will require certain improvements and conditions, primarily on the Ida Street frontage, to make sure that there's adequate landscaping, limited access onto Ida from the business activity, so that it doesn't impact the homes that are on the east side of Ida. We noted in the staff report that even though that property to the east is owned B multifamily, there's a number of single-family homes in there that are well kept and maintained, and the intent is to try to minimize the impact of the business activity with the commercial facility onto that residential property. So with that, you've got a lot of the information in the reports, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got. The MABC did hear this simply because the scheduling of this has gone through the planning commission, but it has not gone on the city council yet. So, and their vote was 11-0 for approval. Be happy to answer any questions. And I know the owner and their agent are here also tonight.
Any questions from that? All right, any questions from the community? Wow. Ms. Rich.
What is that property going to be listed? Is the path going to go all the way over to Indianapolis? And I assume they're probably going to share that house then, right?
Yeah, and the owner probably can address that all, but yes, they own all the way down to Indianapolis, and they removed already some homes, and yeah, I think the last one was on Indianapolis, on Washington is intended to be removed as well. And the rest of it's going to be some, I don't want to guess. If you want, probably better to have the owner discuss, or the agent discuss.
Good evening, Tim Austin with Call Valley Engineering is agent for that, and the president of Tappan Campus, Don Patrick, is here if you have any other questions, but, council member, to answer your question, ma'am, the TAP owns everything north of Indianapolis between Washington and Lima, so, it's a good location, very centrally located, they've been at that location for almost 25 years at that location, pretty close to it. And they singled the property, so it's just to allow for some building expansion on that existing operation. Okay. I'm happy to answer any questions, Councilman.
Any other questions? Any other questions from Dab?
So, are you the only, have you heard from the community, any other feedback?
We have not had any feedback. There were no members of the public present at the planning commission, and we haven't received any phone calls or correspondence from you. I don't believe you have either.
No, we're officially in the protest period right now. We've not received any today, but the timeline runs until the end of Thursday. And, I had, I think, one phone call from a neighbor who thought we were rezoning their property. And when I explained what was going on, they said, oh, no, okay, so.
So is it pretty typical this time period? You haven't heard anything, you probably are not going to hear anything.
Well, you can't guess, but, officially they've got till the end of the day, Thursday, to file with the city clerk's office. If we are anticipating or expecting, usually we hear something by now, but you don't know. But irrespective, this has got to go on the city council because, one, it's a zone change, and also the vacation order would need to be approved by the city council before it can be finalized. So this will be put on the agenda for the city council, I'm guessing probably the first part of May.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jan to take staff recommended action.
Second.
You got the second?
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 8, Northeast Heights Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
Well, good evening, Councilman Johnson and members of the board, Mary Hunt with the planning staff. Back last fall, the residents of the Northeast Heights Neighborhood Association invited planning staff to their, several of their monthly meetings. And they were concerned about the possible negative impacts of commercial development going in particular locations throughout their neighborhood that are currently residential. There had been a couple of applications to rezone property back in 2013 and then again 2018. Both have been turned down by the city council. And so they asked us to take a look at that, and our decision was that yes, we could do a little work on this and look at this area and see if we couldn't get a little more descriptive of what they were talking about. What they were talking about was very consistent with the comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2015 and 16. And so we had no really concerns about that, just had to get the draft some policies. And so, one of the things that we asked them to do is to designate the area that we thought would be appropriate for this. The memo that you have on page 2 has a map, and it's a small area, it's only 1 square mile. And it runs from 21st and Oliver up to 29th and Oliver, and then goes west out to what would be 29th and Hillside if the road went through, and then back down south Hillside to 21st. So that was, although we studied the area a little beyond that, this is the area that it applies to. So we came up with 5 policy recommendations. And again, the recommendations existing single-family property should be discouraged. And then sort of the flip side of that was that strip commercial development, especially along Oliver Avenue and then along 21st Street, is also discouraged. So those are consistent with one another. Then the third policy goes into the most detail. It talks about these three little lots that are right there on 21st and Oliver on the northwest corner. There are little hatch lines on the map. And that if there were some more commercial development to go in this area, that maybe those lots would be the most appropriate. Now, they're very limited because of the size. It's only 300 feet deep, so it's highly limited in what could be accommodated there anyway compared to typical commercial uses. And it's only about 600 feet going north on Oliver. So we're talking about a pretty small area. However, the policies apply to the entire 1 square mile, okay? And so we put in there just a few recommended limitations, things like we're only going to go to general office as a zoning category, which leaves out restaurants, whether they be fast food or otherwise, and or they can go to something less intensive than that. Things to do with where the windows have to face, things to do with how tall the building can be, and that things have to stay within kind of a residential character so that it blends in nicely. Same thing to do with building signs need to stay very understated. Then the fourth policy talks a little bit about buffering, should something go in there. We want to protect the folks that have their backyards going up to this, and so we've got some suggestions on that. Again, these are just policies, they're not law, but it's something to help guide the planning commission and the council, because when the council turned down those other applications several years ago, we used that as a guide in drafting this. So then the last policy, which was added a little bit later, was that they needed to submit drainage plans that meet all of our policies and practices. So this Thursday afternoon, we'll conduct a public hearing at the Planning Commission, and then hopefully have votes on adopting this by our governing bodies in May. Happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions from the dab on this?
So you gave us a presentation last month about kind of how you were visualizing this area. So does this fit into what you showed us last month?
Yes. Or I should say, it's not in conflict with it. It is a tiny area, so it's not taking into account things beyond this, beyond the area.
Tiny, but important.
It's very important, yes.
This is where the house is? Is this on the corner where the house is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what will you do with, what are the plans for the house there? Is it still up for sale, or last meeting? I believe the last time we talked about this, the neighborhood association was trying to purchase the house or something, or?
Yeah, I can't address what the neighborhood association has done. It's still there, it's still a house, it still has single-family zoning.
But there will be a divider wall or something behind this area?
Yeah, that's one of the recommendations on
Separate.
buffering, is
Okay.
that there either be like an earthen berm with some landscaping,
Yeah.
or good landscaping, or even a masonry wall.
But the house does not affect what you're wanting to do then, is what you're saying then. The house being there doesn't affect this area of what you're wanting to do.
Well, what some applicants.
Of what the proposal is, I should say.
Yeah.
It's only it's triggered, we can try to reach them.
So this is, kind of like doing a protective overlay prior to them rezoning, so they have certain guidelines if someone would like to apply for rezoning of that particular lot, right?
Well, it's not a protective overlay because a protective overlay is zoning. This isn't zoning. This is just some policy statements and an amendment
is it just something, at the end of the day, it's just a recommendation?
It is just a recommendation. However, if the planning commission and the governing bodies adopt it, they're saying, we agree with this.
Yeah.
We like this, and we want to use it as a guiding document.
Do you see something like this rolling out for other, parts of the city and direct, tied to the comprehensive plan?
Well, it's highly unusual to do something this small. We chose to do it, thought it was, appropriate, but to do little 1 square mile ones all over town, probably not likely. I mean, anything would be considered, of course, but they tend to be larger areas. But the larger the area, the more uses you have in there.
I was thinking of not this particular case, but I was thinking of the last presentation and the particular areas that you guys may point in,
Well, the last one, the Places for People, is much less specific than this. We could get specific on this one just because it's so little. It's houses, and then there's a little dab of, there's a cemetery, and it's just highly limited in what it is. And we really were just reacting to the residents' desires.
Any other questions?
Obviously the neighborhood had input, have they approved of this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't leak anywhere until they were happy with it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we met with, I don't remember how many meetings, or I attended 3, but, other staff met with me before that.
In fact, I was gonna commend you, because I remember one of the main things they were concerned about in that last meeting was flooding, things like that, so I did see you had something concerning
Yes.
drainage in there, so, yeah.
Any questions from the community? Mr. Barnes?
Brett, I understand that, August Drive, a lot of this is driven by that particular corner, that intersection, those little properties there. When you're talking about that mile radius, square mile in here, down to 29th, coming back over the hillside, and then coming back up. So whatever kind of takes place, and attention shows that. But it also, from what I understand, it will also be able to affect any development that goes along 27th hillside. Example, Grand Chapel Church, they got a big field there next to them. So if somebody wanted to put a supermarket or a store in there, or a pharmacy, they couldn't do it. Same thing with, guys trying to develop steamships, things there, he might put that, maybe, I guess, residential.
Well, these again are just guiding policies on where we want things to kind of tilt. Now,
No, but
should
that-
somebody come in with one of those, full-service grocery stores that so many neighborhoods need, obviously they're going to take a look at that, assuming there's enough space. Because, typically grocery stores today, a small one is 80,000, and a full-service one right now is 120,000 square feet. They're not small anymore.
Well, I guess my question was, I know in that area we're economically deprived, there's not a lot of businesses, not a lot of jobs, a lot of things that happen there. So even though that's probably a really ideal spot for businesses because of traffic in here, you start talking about the square mile, and you do, still in an area here that they could use some of those resources that they drive in the Rock Road and some other areas that can happen in 27th or even next to High Exchange, or they got big lots and stuff in here that go along the hillside to actually develop. But these kind of things they'll have an effect on what can come in and can't at that time. So it's a bigger picture. I know the spotlight's on that corner, that mile takes care of, it puts some restriction on a lot of other things that probably the neighborhood might could use or might bring in, just something to thought.
Well, the spotlight on that corner is really just that there's a history of redevelopment attempts on that corner, but the policies apply to the entire area.
So, as this young lady suggested, is a protective overlay focused on a specific lot versus the entire area, 1 mile?
Well, I mean, protective overlays can be over, I mean, really large developments where they set the standards, okay? But again, a protective overlay becomes zoning for that, those parcels of land. This isn't zoning.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
You did, and my concern being, you know, I'm adjacent to this property that we're concerned with mostly. This was not to impede any progress in the area. You know, I understand what Lonnie's talking about. Yes, if we have a possibility of larger stores or something that the area could use, you know, we don't really want to impede that, but considering things that are adjacent to me, okay, and I am directly adjacent to that property, I am very concerned about overextension of, you know, I don't know how you separate the two. I don't know how you limit one corner.
Well, we're not limiting one corner, it's just that one corner is what kind of prompted the discussion with the neighborhood.
Right.
Okay, and it's quite possible they'll come back and ask to rezone the property again. And now they'll have some guiding policies on how to handle that. Should something highly desirable come in, they'll just have to look at it. And that's why we have the public hearing process, that's why we come here, to get people's input.
Right.
Because when you're talking about redevelopment, taking something not from a soybean field to something, but something that's been an intact, stable neighborhood, and you start to whittle away at it, you got some discussing to do.
Yes, and you know, I greatly appreciate taking in our consideration, you know, everything that we had talked about and attending all these meetings and drafting this and asking for the approval. I guess I don't quite understand why specific, since it's a minor area that a minor dictate can happen. You know, we only have the 1 mile to consider, or we have to consider everything in the 1 mile.
So I'll let Dave jump in here in a second, but one thing you shouldn't be fearful of is stopping the business progress, because most of the folks who want to bring opportunities there will reach out to the council member, me or whoever's in that seat, and talk about what they want to do and where. The other thing is, it's widely known that you all are very engaged, both the homeowners association and the neighborhood association, and folks who want to do something will reach out and talk to you all about doing that. And I also have been encouraging people in these empty lots to come do some type of development, because we need that help. And I know if they talk to everyone about things that we need, grocery stores and things like that, we can find a way to work together to address that. So that's one thing you shouldn't be fearful of. Specifically though, when it comes to a lot, this is just giving some guiding principles. So when the property owner was there, he also heard, these are some things that the community would actually accept. We know that the community wants to keep it residential, but if I were to apply, these are some things that they may accept. And that was kind of what he walked away with. And the last time we spoke, that was his understanding of it. So if he were to come back and there were specific things you wanted to stop in a protective overlay, that would be a part of the approval process, both from DAB, MAPC, and then finally council, because it would be very specific in that overlay. It could be more specific than this. It could void out some of this, just whatever, again, because the community's gonna have input. We all talk about it, and then that gets approved. So again, you can be more specific in the zoning process. This, again, is just guiding. Think about this if you're gonna do some development, and know that we prefer residential. It's kind of what it is. Dave?
Well, you took all my thunder, because that's what I was gonna say. This action is a plan document that will become, if approved, a policy of the city and the governing body. But, and then it would be used going forward when someone actually is talking about wanting to rezone a piece of property anywhere within that square mile. Not just the corner of 21st and Oliver, but anywhere else, on 25th Street, on Hillside, whatever. It becomes a policy that's used to evaluate that particular request. And if that specific request is determined in the evaluation that you need a protective overlay or some other action to protect or mitigate the impact of what's proposed upon that property, you do that through the zoning, not through this planning process. So that's why there's a difference between the two. And it's knowing, and I realize it's a little detailed, but it's knowing and understanding what tool you get to use. But in the comp plan or a policy document like this, you don't do zoning actions. And it's really pretty, as Mary said, it's unusual to get down in a city like Wichita down where you're doing just this small of an area in the plan. Normally it's a much larger area, but or city county-wide, which we've done. But you don't get down to where you do policy plans on individual properties. You just don't do that. So I didn't mean to say it to you.
So just a quick refresher, pardon me, you said it well, Brandon. What kind of motivated this is that neighborhood area in Northeast Heights is very engaged. And so with any property owner that has a piece of property in that square mile that they desire to redevelop or develop into something that's outside of the current zoning, we wanted to have a policy or a plant in the ground that says, here's our starting point and here's where we can all come to the table and kind of be able to do away with some of the nitty gritty behind the scenes before we even get to a point of discussion.
Right.
And a lot of what brought that on was the WSU Innovation Campus and some of the fits and starts and things that are happening there that they say this is happening and then it doesn't happen for a while and we don't know what's going to happen. There's all kinds of hodgepodge all the way up and down Central because of zoning issues like this that happen. And we just, as a neighborhood, desire to have a little more structure because of the established neighborhood and the type of area that it is adjacent to such a large campus such as WSU and what's happening there and like what we saw that LaShonda presented and all those good things that are happening all around that. It's not any kind of a way to try and deter development. It's a matter of trying to clear the air and get some things on the ground to help negotiations if they happen.
Right. Said much better than I. Mr. Rose.
I was gonna say, I'm listening to Johnny, it's not only 2 acres up there, 3 acres that can be developed. We talked about 20 on the hillside there, and that's already been zoned, bringing the citizen home, I don't know what the whole of it is. But on Olive Street, we only got one plot of land, you see plenty of spots up there, with gas lines and things running through that property that cannot be developed. And so it's the acres left, I think we can, and the size of the grocery store that you want in there, I just don't see the space to put one in on the property that's there. It's not a rezone. Maybe commercial, whatever it is. And that's how far, because hillside's already spoken.
All right, any other questions? Any questions from the dad? All right, entertain a motion.
A motion to endorse plans amended as presented.
I have a motion to accept from Dan, second from Tadana. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Mary. All right. Move on to the fun part. Start at the end with Dan, updates, issues, reports.
We have a tree down in our park and we've addressed it and we've seen no action. We really want it out. In fact, now we've got two.
So when you say you have a tree down, were you followed up with from Park Department from Court Street?
We've, I made one call to your office and left a message for you. And,
treats, snacks, a host of other things that happen in the Evergreen, neighborhood.
Can you repeat the location?
Yes. Evergreen Library, 2601 North Arkansas. Yes, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., April 30th.
And I want to welcome Tyler York to the District Advisory Board. Just do you have any updates? Can you introduce yourself?
No.
To that?
I don't know the specific lots, I just wanted to, thank what's the departments that have been helping clean up the lots? Yeah, they've been, I've been emailing them, probably since I've been on the, about, the area I live in, and, I can see them doing a good, actually having them clean up the lots and everything.
Again, definitely welcome Tyler to the board. This Wednesday is Air Capital Build with Habitat for Humanity. I should have wrote down the address, but there are 3 major aviation companies that have sponsored builds. The houses are right next to one another. And Wednesday morning I get to do the welcome, but it's great to always see these homes going up. Habitat has built 39 homes in the Rockville Block area, so it's changing the community. That's 39 families moving in, owning their home, and helping to improve the community. We just welcomed a new homeowner in that area. Was that last week? Last week we welcomed her. It's always fun to do that. Everyone tries to hold it until they get to the end of their speech, but by the time they see the keys, the tears come with joy and having a new home, so that's been really good. Want you all to think, so we know that we're gonna have a retreat as a DAB, an opportunity for a refresher, tour of the district. Is there an evening in this month that does not work for you, Monday through Friday? You can email those to me, so you don't have to look through all your dates right now, but if there's an evening that does not work, let me know, and we will send out a, whatever that's called, Survey Monkey or whatnot, where you can pick a date that works for all of us, and we will get that going. Please, all of you research feral cats that will come to us in a few weeks. The TNR ordinance recommendations were given to us at workshop. I know that you've heard from, I think, 2 speakers so far, but make sure you look into that and have some thoughts and questions ready. It will be coming forward pretty soon. Also, on Saturday at our breakfast at 9:30 at Atwater, I'm going to invite you all to that. I've sent an email to everyone I've appointed to just reach out to the community. Again, idea I got from Mr. Roseborough, just making sure everybody knows who we are or who's appointed. So you just want to talk a few minutes about your experience on DAB, things that you deal with. That'd be a great opportunity. I'd love to have you come there. And lastly, there are some rumors going around about the public library policy that states that we are restricting, or that they are, because the board governs the library, the council does not, but they are restricting Christianity, only allowing one faith to have programs, and only reaching out to specific groups. That's not true. I've been hearing that from 2 specific pastors in this community, but I wanted to let you all know, if you are hearing that, that's not the case. The new library policy is one that is inclusive of everything. It's not discriminatory, and it also has opportunities for you to, if there is something that you may want to, I guess the word would be protest. There was no policy in place before where you could do that, and now there are 3 different steps outlined where your voice would be heard for that. So the policy is definitely a good thing. And again, it doesn't say if you believe in one faith or another, you cannot come in here. Or if you love someone of the same sex, that you're the only one that they care about. That's not the case. policy, from what I have read and see, is very inclusive. But again, if you have any further questions, definitely let me know. You can reach out to Donna or Lamont Anderson, who represents District 1. So with that, Donna, did you have anything to add? LaWanda, we missed you. Do you have any updates?
I don't, I have a request. If anybody is interested in becoming a debate instructor, the NAACP Youth Council is looking for one. Our instructor fell in love and his future wife took little precedence over us.
I have someone for you.
Awesome. I forgot one thing, Day of Free Healthcare, Saturday, April 13th, 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. over at Mueller. Again, if you know anybody who needs help, this is a wonderful resource. Last year, they were pulling teeth on site, medication, checkups, I think shots. So if anyone hasn't been to the doctor and they need some help, if they don't have insurance, please bring it. This is free. Was there food there?
Yes, lunch.
They have lunch.
And groceries.
And groceries. And they have stuffed animals for kids. So again, this is a great place. If someone needs help, I know there's a lot of needy folks in this state. I won't go into that. But since healthcare is an issue, this is a definite place where they can come get some resources. So please let anyone and everyone know to come there. Mr. Cook.
The three houses, the Habitat houses, are in the 1100 block of Estelle.
Yes.
On the west side.
Yeah. Right now, the bases are there, and we will raise the walls on that day. All right, well, if there's nothing else, thank you all for being here. We'll entertain
Louise Alexander, Community Service Rep for District 1. I came to report out on the hotspot program that took place, the trial in Colvin Neighborhood Resource Center and Alvarado Neighborhood Resource Center. Each of our sites had 20 little devices where people could take it home and have internet service, Wi-Fi at home. And we had great success with it. It was a pilot program where some funding came in from the city to partner with T-Mobile. And we actually had people tell us they got jobs by sitting at home and pushing out resumes from home. Their kids got to do their homework from home. And so you should know that there's a department within the city that applied for a grant, and we're hoping that that grant allows us to continue and extend the program into Evergreen Neighborhood Resource Center. So we got great feedback. We actually had an employee go drive and pick up a box from someone at work. They left a message like, I'm at work, I can't get it to you, I can get it on the bus. And we're like, we'll come get it. And so they actually cut off after 2 weeks of use, and so people had to return them or get rides, and so we appreciated that coming back. We did get to test to see if a neighbor could use it, but we were hoping someone could tell us if they're a neighbor, because you could connect 15 devices at once to that. So that service was very well received and appreciated, and so we hope to continue that hotspot program. The device itself is called CoolPad, so we had this conversation, hotspot, CoolPad, Wi-Fi, and it was successful. So thanks for those who participated and pushed that, and we're taking tabs of who's still interested, so the community and the city can know that Wi-Fi is definitely needed and appreciated. Lastly, our Youth Advocacy Coalition worker is available to come out to any organization or group events you may have where youth are present. She's currently going into the schools, juvenile field services where youth are, and coordinating with any community programs like Love Your Community that's coming up in Plainview. Open Streets ICT is taking place in Nomar on Cinco de Mayo. And so if you have any organizations that want to participate, please sign up then. Any questions, concerns of the group? No food, no money.
Also want to recognize former District 1 Council Member and State Senator Rick Gooch for being here. Always love to have you come in. All right, we have a motion. We had an almost unanimous second.
All right, all in favor, stand up. All opposed, say
Council, we'll send you the